Hello, familia. Welcome back to this Tuesday on Crypto. Oh my God, the market's getting a little healthier. Things seem to be settling down around the world, and I don't know, maybe nothing ever happens, right? We've had all this drama, all this buildup, and like everything's a chickening out from the tariffs to the war to who knows. But you know what? Sometimes no news is good news, and I'll take it. Now, today, policy episode, we got to get into it. It's the most important thing in this cycle, and it's moving in our direction. Let's dive in. So Powell sat and gave us a little chat, and what did we learn? Well, there's this very interesting thing, which is the government's move away from Operation Chokepoint 2. That is what occurred under Biden, which was the debanking effort to go after any bank that worked with cryptocurrency companies. In fact, they actually started a cascading bank run between Silvergate, between Signature, and you had Senator Barney Frank, who was on the board of Signature, and they deemed them insolvent, even though the bank themselves was like, we have the balance sheet, we can keep operating. So it got pretty insane, and it turned out that this was the second iteration of an Obama-era strategy called Operation Chokepoint, aimed at sort of nefarious internet business practices like online gambling, like pornography, where they attempted to restrict the flow to these companies by restricting their bank account access. It happens also in the marijuana industry. But under Biden in the last term, we saw this full attack on cryptocurrency companies. Myself, everybody operating inside the space had a lot of trouble keeping their bank account open, and doing business is tough if you have no place to, take and receive and send cash from. Now, in our instance, a lot of people, they would just wake up one day and your savings account would be shut off, and it was like, hey, why? We're doing fine. There's nothing really crazy that's up in the air, but they'd say, you're a crypto business, kabosh. So we're now seeing this movement against Operation Chokepoint 2, which is pretty bullish for operating a crypto company inside the United States. This goes in tandem with the SEC coming up with the Safe Harbor proposal, the Clarity Act, all of that fun stuff. So we keep moving forward. And of course, this is bolstered, right? The Federal Reserve has officially removed the reputational risk factor that penalized Bitcoin and crypto. Now, what I just talked about from Powell, that's the Fed. So these are different talking points on the same piece, but we can see that Bitcoin specifically being named, very good for all of these companies that are building Bitcoin treasuries. So we're just seeing mass adoption happen, cracks in the armor of the anti-blockchain world taking shape. Now, this is pretty fun from the Bank of International Settlement, and they come out saying stablecoins fare poorly on singleness and elasticity as digital bearer instruments. They lack settlement function provided by the central bank. Stablecoin holdings are tagged to the name of the issuer, much like private banknotes circulating in the 19th century free banking era in the United States. They have a kind of downer take, but let's be real. This is the Bank of International Settlement, and this is a very disruptive technology. So it's interesting to see them look into the technology, but they go on to say, hey, why do peer-to-peer trustless settlement on a publicly verifiable blockchain when you could just trust us? And that is the core of what's happening here. There's a lot of concern that it could disrupt banking writ large, especially the banking industry itself. So this is a kind of fun read if you want to dive into the, they're shaking from their boots, they're fighting from the back foot kind of story. Now, there's some more stuff happening. Obviously, mass adoption is like a domino effect and it keeps on tipping, but I did think this was fun. Taxis in the UAE now accept crypto. And for anyone following the MENA region, the UAE, Dubai, all of that fun stuff, well, they're just leaning into the digital era. They want the world to view them as a place of the future where new things are happening, where novel technologies are being tried and tested. And it's fun to see crypto payments inside taxi rides. I mean, I would like to use stablecoins. You've heard me say it again and again. The point of sales, the tap, is the last thing towards mass adoption. So being able to use it for something useful, to pay for something useful, like taxis, like cafes, this is just a positive step for replacing the current financial rails with blockchain. And in a total departure, I just thought this was a really interesting story, which is that the largest high school in America is now operating a Solana validator with over $2 million at stake. So this is Brooklyn Technical High School in New York, and it's the first school in the US to launch a blockchain node. Kids should just be getting their hands dirty with the tech. Sure, a Solana validator, that's actually really impressive because those are chunky, beefy machines. I've talked about this before. So those are actually more technical to operate than a light node that you might find on Ethereum or other things of that nature. nature, but it's just very nice to see the younger generation actually supporting the infrastructure itself, learning a lot of the resources. I think this will help them kind of understand what they should do in college. Obviously, a computer science degree in the age of AI is like heavily at risk, but network management, things on the back end, I mean, that's still very much needed, right? The AIs all operate on the infrastructure side. So when you get into systems architecture, which is really what blockchain engineers are, distributed systems architects, I mean, this is just a fun thing to see being explored at such an early age. I wish that we had more economic understanding, more sort of financial training, but this is a best of both worlds kind of opportunity. So really, really rewarding to see, again, kids getting into blockchain. I mean, this starts a long-term savings trend. This starts the compounding gains. I mean, if you buy Solana while you're in high school and you stake that and just kind of let it compound until you're older, it's going to reward you. Cycles be damned. And last but not least, touching back in on Gorbagana, they just continue to build. So the energy is still there, and they've now have a bounty to build on Gorbagana chain. I would like to encourage builders to build with this long-term mindset of cultural alignment of Gorbagana. I will personally be mentoring top teams coming out of this bounty. So that's kind of neat to see that the community itself is stepping up, that developers who committed early on are saying, hey, we're going to grow this ecosystem. We plan on sticking around. It's good to see that the capital is there, right? That they raised enough funds, that they're going to be bringing on a cohort of new devs. And maybe this is actually the perfect opportunity for a younger developer to kind of get their hands dirty with less experience and go under the purview, become a ward to Sarv over here, and actually get a deeper education into blockchain itself. So really fun to see, really bullish just on the growth of Gorbagana. But again, I love the experimentation side of this industry. It's where my heart lies, and it's really where a lot of the excitement comes from. So with that being said, Bitcoin continues to move on up. We are seeing de-risking globally regarding the war. The Fed has come out saying that rate cuts might happen in July, and people are getting pretty bullish on the markets. So with that being said, as always, don't lever up, stay safe out there, and I'll see you tomorrow.